Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to the Sebas Perspective, a show we've all been needing in this current society that we're living in. I mean, let's be honest. What's going on today? Every single time you turn on social media, you look at the news, there's something new popping up. From celebrities slapping each other, to wars going on overseas. We're here to talk about all that kind of stuff. We're here to dissect every little perspective that you don't even know about, that you wish you knew about. And of course, I'm your beautiful and sexy host, Sebas. And while you're currently probably asking yourself, who's this super confident young buck with the sexy voice that decided to put a camel as the logo of his podcast, I'm here to tell you that, funny enough, the camel is actually from the place where the idea of this podcast originated in, which would be in the middle of the desert in a country called Kuwait, on the Arabian Peninsula across the entire world. And you might be asking yourself, what the hell are you doing, Sebas? Why are you over there in the middle of Kuwait, just chilling with camels and genie lamps? Well, I'll tell you that at that time, I was a 20-year-old sergeant in the United States Army, kind of trying to figure out what I was doing in the middle of a boring but super hard-working deployment as a military intelligence analyst. And I got to tell you, that was probably the hardest moments I've ever worked in my entire life. Being a military intelligence analyst was nothing as it was advertised to me at the recruiter. I remember being an 18-year-old kid sitting in the parking lot of my high school about a couple months before graduation. I was waiting to pick up my sister. I was going to take her home because my mom always had to work. I grew up in a single-family household, so my mother was always working. She was always working. I would never get to see her. So then I would essentially have to take on the burden of dealing with my sister. And I know a lot of people have to take that burden on as well. Dealing with siblings can sometimes be extremely annoying, but also rewarding depending on what day of the week it is. But point is, I was sitting there contemplating, thinking, what should I do? What's the next step I should take? Because I know that many people in our society today, they face this challenge where we all kind of do the same exact thing. We're all like in one massive assembly line. You graduate from high school, you go to college, you get a degree in something you're not really interested in, you get a lot of debt, you graduate, get married to some super fine shorty or some super handsome gentleman, and then you have kids, you grow old, midlife crisis, and you die. Boom, it's over. Just like that. 80 to 99 years gone. And you know what? That's kind of sad. That's really sad. It's sad that a lot of people in our society live like that today. And I didn't want to be a part of that assembly line. I didn't want to be a part of that system that we've been conditioned to live in. So I said, screw it. I'm going to take a different road. I'm going to join the military. I'm going to join the United States Army, and I'm going to see what's up. And I got to tell you what, when I told my mother that I was joining the United States Army, not just did she start bawling her eyes out, but the first thoughts that were in her head were, oh my God, you're going to go into the middle of some desert and you're going to die. First things. And I was thinking, Mom, stop being so crazy. That's not what's going to happen. But funny enough, about 2 years later, that's exactly where I was. In the middle of some desert doing intelligence on a bunch of beautiful countries that have some tough history. But I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. Because joining the United States Army was probably one of the best, if not the best decision I ever did in my life. But before we start talking more about this attractive military career, let's take it back a couple notches to where I'm from and who I am. My name is Sebastian Peñaranda. I was born in North Miami Beach. Shout out 305, Dade County. You know what it is. Born in North Miami Beach to Colombian immigrants, first-generation American. I got to say, they were chasing the American dream when they came over here. They were trying to give me and my sister a beautiful future. Well, at the time, my sister wasn't really in the picture, but, give me a beautiful future. And because of that, they were entrepreneurs. They were entrepreneurs that wanted to build stuff, make stuff happen. And that's, I think, where I got the mindset to even start this podcast in the first place. But, of course, just like many kids that come from foreign countries, their parents come from foreign countries. I was bullied a lot in high school. I was bullied a lot in middle school because I was very awkward, didn't really know how to speak to people, had a thick accent. And let's just say that even sometimes when you're living down in South Florida, a lot of people might not think that's the most attractive thing to have a super thick accent. Hello, how are you? That's not really the cutest thing. But I just kind of had to deal with it. And I also bounced around a lot. I bounced around a lot, moving from place to place when I was younger. I've lived in a couple places, specifically in the North Miami area. Then I moved to Columbia, the country, not the city. Then I moved to Massachusetts, came back down to Boynton Beach, shout out 561, and then graduated from high school in Boca Raton. And at Boca Raton, that was the same exact parking lot that I was sitting in, wondering, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get there? And I thought, if I'm going to join the military, I'm not going to get some job that's not going to give me anything in the long run. I want to get a job that's going to teach me something, that's going to give me some values, and something that I can actually use that's tangible in the outside world. So for some reason, I thought it would be cool to be James Bond, and I decided to do military intelligence. I decided to kind of go and become my own little version of a super spy. And becoming a super spy was a lot more complicated than I had originally imagined. Because massive background check. If you think getting a background check for a weapon or getting a background check when you go apply to Publix is very hard, you can only imagine what it's like getting a background check from an individual coming from Washington, D.C. to interview you about your entire life. And as an 18-year-old kid, I didn't know what I was doing, if I'm being 100% honest. But let's be honest, who does at 18? No one at 18 knows exactly what they're doing. There's people nowadays that are 35 and they don't even know what they're doing. So I think I was actually a pretty good spot. But when I decided to do a military intelligence, I had no idea the road that would take me on. And the road that would eventually lead me to the middle of a desert with a camel. But it all started very simple in the fields of Oklahoma, a state that I'll never go back to in my life unless there is something really nice for me there, like money. But Oklahoma was horrible. I went to basic training at Fort Sill, and then I went to my advanced individual training or my little army college at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, a place that is just as dry as people make it out to be. But I got to go see the border. I touched a centimeter of Mexico, and it was lit. Very lit. I think that's all I need to see in Mexico. But, I might go back to Cancun because the flights are pretty cheap right now from Miami International. But then after that, I said, why want to stay kind of stateside? Because I wasn't really trying to go overseas at the time. They told me, hey, Sebastian, guess what? You're going to go to South Korea. I said, psych, I'm not really trying to do that. How about I could maybe, switch up some orders with somebody and maybe stay stateside? Lucky enough, there was a nice young lady that said, I want to go to South Korea. And she said, where do you want to go? And I said, well, I want to be as close to Florida as possible. So she said, okay, well, I have orders to go to Georgia. And I said, oof, that's tough. But you know what? I'll give it a try. So I got stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia with the 513th Military Intelligence Brigade for 2.5 years of my life. And I got to say, it was very interesting. But it also gave me some of the best memories of my entire life. While I was over there, I became a 3-time Soldier of the Year. I became the Soldier of the Year for the 297th Military Intelligence Battalion, 513th Military Intelligence Brigade, and I became the U.S. Army Central Command Best Warrior for 2020, a little competition that was competed for out of about 40 to 60,000 soldiers. So I gotta say, I'm trying to be very humble when I say this, but it was lit. Absolutely amazing. But those competitions weren't just really for the glamorous of being, you know what, you're the best warrior out of all these people. It was more so about the lessons that I learned and the adversities that I went through while doing those competitions. I learned a lot about myself, specifically about life. Something that we'll get into in later episodes, but I'll give you a little snippet of it right now. And that snippet essentially consists of that no matter what anyone says to you, don't ever let anyone's opinions of you become your reality, because that's a massive problem we got in this society today. There's too many people that think that they could live vicariously through other people and tell them exactly what they can and cannot do. If only you knew the amount of times people told me there is no way you can compete in this competition. There's infantrymen, there's artillerymen, there's people that are way better at this warrior stuff than you. There's people that have been in the army longer than you. At the time, I was just, a 19-year-old kid that had only been in the army for about 1.5 to 2 years. So in army terms, that's fresh. I was a nobody, but I believed in myself. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I had an amazing leader backing me at the time. An amazing staff sergeant in the army that was like, you know what, I'm going to support you as much as I can. And thank goodness for her, and thank goodness for another individual that was a command sergeant major of my battalion. They pushed me to see beyond what I even thought was possible. But that's the point. We don't even know what's possible in our own ability, because all the people that, again, are living vicariously through us are constantly telling us, hey, you can't do this. You shouldn't even try this. That's unrealistic. You should be realistic with yourself. How about I tell you one thing right now so you can tell all those other people? How about you say screw them? Right? Screw them, because they don't know what they're talking about. They might think that they know based on how many years of experience they got. But at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. And opinions are that opinions. They're not fact. You could change opinions. You cannot change facts. But we'll get deeper into how facts work later on in this beautiful podcast that you're listening to right now. But while I was trying to be a badass and become a 3-time Soldier of the Year, I also got another amazing opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. at 19 years old and go work with a couple feds. You know, I got the opportunity to go work with a couple guys from the Defense Intelligence Agency in Washington, D.C. And I got to say, being there at 19 years old, thinking, wow, you know, a couple years ago, I was watching a bunch of feds on Criminal Minds talk about all these criminals that they were chasing and how you have to do X, Y, Z to kind of catch somebody and be a mind reader. And here I am at 19, sitting in a building that most people probably went through years of education to even get into. And I'm here at 19. That was my starting point. So I thought to myself, okay, if this is my starting point, then the only way up is from here. I can only go up from here. There's no way I'm going down. And since then, I thought about ways to continuously develop myself and develop the people around me. Because let's be honest, if you're not trying to develop the people around you, you're a bum. Let's keep it real. If you're not trying to keep the people that are around you up with you, if they're not winning also with you, then you're a bum, because you should always want to take care of your community. You should always want to take care of your people and the people that have always been loyal to you, even when you were nothing. So I was doing good, worked with a couple feds, Soldier of the Year, became a sergeant in the United States Army by 20 years old. And I said, wow, I think I'm doing pretty all right. And then in Christmas of 2020, about to turn 2021, I was told, hey, guess what, Sebastian? You might be doing pretty well, but we got another challenge for you that we think might shake you up. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And they're like, we're going to send you to the middle of the desert where you're going to be the lead sergeant for all the intelligence that's coming out of this area of the world. And you're going to be in charge of about 3 different soldiers. And by the way, you're going to be pinning sergeant in 2 weeks. I wasn't even a sergeant yet at the time, but they were telling me, you're going to pin sergeant, and then a month after you pin, you're going to be boots on ground in the middle of the desert. And I said, wow, you guys really just don't have any compassion for me, because I was really enjoying my time in Miami and in West Palm Beach. But now you want to send me to the middle of the boonies, with Aladdin? That's messed up, man. But regardless of that, I got told, hey, you're going. So I said, okay, let's do it. And I got to say that the desert probably taught me the most about myself than I've ever learned in my entire life. The whole reason that camel is there on the logo is because that signifies my journey of hard work through those 6 months in the desert. And I got the opportunity also to travel to Jordan, which as a Catholic man is a beautiful thing, because in the Bible, it always talks a lot about the presence of Jesus in Jordan, being baptized in the river of Jordan. And I got to see the river of Jordan. It was amazing to be on holy land. And again, all these countries in that region of the world have such a beautiful culture, have such a beautiful history that's overshadowed by a lot of sick individuals that don't represent the people as a whole. And I got to learn a lot about those people and those individuals in my months there, just as I learned a lot about myself. And the lessons that I learned there will stay with me forever. But those lessons will also be taught on this podcast, because the main purpose of this podcast, if I'm being 100% honest, is to teach people stuff that I've learned from my perspective, and also bring on other people's perspectives to teach you as well, and to teach each other, because I firmly believe that no one's perspective is irrelevant. They could be 17 years old or they could be 87. Everyone lives a different life. No one has lived the same exact life you have. They might have lived in similar circumstances and similar origins. They might even be from the same family, but no one has seen life through your eyes. No one has seen life through your exact perspective. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to have those tough conversations that no one wants to have in this society, because we live in a society that preaches everything from cancel culture to disrespecting individuals to having double standards. And we're here to decipher all that kind of stuff, because I firmly believe that this is a country that when I was younger, I didn't understand. Because I grew up being taught in school that we had a lot of bad history in the United States, that we did a lot of bad stuff. We did a lot of bad stuff to a lot of people. We committed genocide. We exterminated people's cultures. We've done horrendous things. And I agree. Those are horrendous things. But just because the past is horrible doesn't mean that the future has to be as well. And I'm here to do that. I'm here to talk about the future of this country, the future of the people of this world, on this entire planet, and what the perspectives of each single one of them can teach us about ourselves and about the world around us. Because we're pretty blind to the world around us, if we're being honest. If it's not on your iPhone, if it's not on your Android, you don't know about it. I guarantee you most of the people listening to this right now would not even know that there was a war happening in Ukraine if someone hadn't said anything about it on their phones. Imagine if no one had phones, if no one had a computer. Would you know what's going on in Detroit, Michigan, if you're living in Miami, Florida? Absolutely not. You know, if a tree falls in the middle of the woods and no one hears it, did it really fall? That's an old saying that a lot of people probably know about, but it speaks volumes about how we live today. It's all about word of mouth and who's saying what. So I'm here to tell you that we're going to be deciphering that. The plans for the future episodes are very nice and groovy. You know, we're going to be talking about finances. We're going to be talking about getting rich. We're going to be talking about dating. We're going to be talking about international politics. Everything from Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates to Islamabad in Pakistan to Shanghai in China. To we'll even go to Oslo, Norway, and, you know, of course, the most exotic location of them all, Memphis, Tennessee. I know you'll be looking forward to that one explicitly. But as always, I'm very excited to tell you about my journey, because this journey taught me many lessons. And all I could do and all I wish to do is teach you about those same exact lessons, so then you could teach others, and then they'll teach others. And we'll just create this massive community that could possibly expand to the entire world. Because I firmly believe also that whatever path you choose to walk, there's a possibility that you could affect millions and millions of people's lives, and the world will never be the same again because you chose that path. I was on the path to nowhere when I was younger, but I decided to veer. I decided to get off of that road and create my own path, just like I want every single person here to create their own path. Don't let other people's opinions dictate that path for you. Don't let other people's thoughts or opinions of their own life experiences determine what you're capable of in your own life experience. Because I'll tell you what, no one thought it was possible for me to become a sergeant at 20 years old. That's almost unheard of. No one thought it was possible for me to take a team of soldiers out to the Middle East and perform a job so explicitly and amazingly well that we were receiving praise from entire commands for our work. And a lot of people say, why are you so cocky, Sebastian? Why are you so confident? Because that's the only way to walk throughout life. What's the alternative to not walking around life confidently? Walking around life doubting yourself? Doubting your own abilities? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm going to teach on this podcast, and that's not what I want you to teach other people. Because we're here to teach each other. And I'm more than happy to go on this journey with every single one of you. But I do got to say, I'm very much looking forward, and I thank everyone for listening to the podcast up to this point. It's been a real blessing, and we're going to go on an amazing journey together. God bless every single one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.